Hey guys, I'm Glenn with DIY Creators and we're back with another limited tool video. Today I'm going to make a table saw fence for the homemade table saw. This is a very simple design and it's effective. It's pretty strong. I like the way it came out. I'm happy with that part, and I'll show you guys a couple test cuts on this before we get into the build. If you're new to the channel, be sure to check out the other two videos pertaining to this workbench, show you how to build it and also how to use it. The table saw fence will be made up of 4 pieces of 1x3s, 4 pieces of small scrap, 1 piece of 1x2, 1 piece of 2x2, a T-track, T-track screws, a knob, and some T-nuts. And this being my limited tool series, I will use nothing but the limited tools that I mentioned in the beginner video. Majority of this table saw fence will be made up of this 1x3 PVC trim. And to cut the bulk of these pieces, I'm going to use the Max Cut 2 from the limited tool series as well. Now after my first cut, I'm going to take the first piece and then use those to transfer the measurement over to the remaining cuts. I'm also using a 1x3 select pine as well for the bottom of the table saw fence. The T-track I'm using I purchased off of Amazon, and I'll have a link down in the video description if you guys are interested in the same one I'm using. After measuring the table saw, I cut the T-track down 1/8 of an inch shorter than the front of the table saw. And at this point, I'm getting ready to route in the track for the T-track in the front of the table saw, and I'm going to take a couple scrap pieces of wood, attach that to the side, and this way when I'm routing through, I don't have any blowout on the end of the table saw. This piece needs to be flush with the top and the front of the table saw. Now if you don't have a router or you're afraid of the router, you don't have to route this track in. You can literally just mount it to the front. Now to make this cut, I'm going to use a 3/4 inch bottom bit, and this should give me the exact cut for the T-track. Now the flooring on my garage floor is not level, so I'm going to use weight to help stabilize the table till I can make this cut. It took me 3 pass-throughs to get down to the exact depth that I needed to. The trim router I'm using came with this router guide, which really helps you get a straight cut. Now after every pass-through, I did check with the T-track just to make sure I was on the right path. After the track is routed to your liking, you can now take some screws to secure the track in place. Now as I stated before, the 1x3 trim I'm using is made of PVC. It's smooth on one side and then the other side have texture. For this project, I'm going to turn the texture to the inside. Now I'm going to lay all the PVC pieces down on a flat surface, then use my square to then mark all the screw holes. And this way I keep it consistent and it looks clean when you're seeing it from a distance. The screws should no way interfere with the workpiece that you're working on, so we need to countersink the heads of the screws. And once this side is done, just do the same thing on the opposite side. The fence will have a top, but I do need some middle support so that we don't have any flexing, and that's where these small pieces come into play. Now to make these cuts, you can use a handsaw or you can use the Max Cut 2 circular saw, crosscut and jig. Now I don't expect these pieces to twist by no means, so I'm going to only use 1 screws in the middle to hold these in place. Now these 2 pieces of wood here will be used for the sliding part of the fence, but I'm going to use scrap piece of wood to make sure I get that right, then transfer it over onto the permanent pieces. And now I'm going to take a T-track screw, slide it in the slot, and take the center of that and transfer it onto the wood. Now these center points are not crucial because this is not the actual piece that I'm going to be using as the final product. So just make 2 holes, slide that in the track, and we want to see how well it slides and if everything looks good. And now if it does, you can transfer that over to your permanent piece. When it's all said and done, I'll sandwich these two pieces of wood together, and on the 2x2 I'll drill out a couple holes to compensate for the back of the T-nut. Now take the two T-nuts and hammer those into the 1x2. And you should see no gaps when you sandwich the two together. Now the hole in the middle needs to go all the way through both pieces. Now install the small T-track screws into the two outer holes. Now these two should be locked in place via the T-nuts. And if everything looks good, you can now add wood glue, clamp it down, and install screws. Now take a wet rag or a piece of wet paper towel and wipe off the wood glue. And even if your blade looks straight, it's a good idea to test it and make sure it is straight. Now take the table saw fence, press it up against the blade, and check for squaring. Now if everything looked good, clamp the fence to the slide that's in the T-track and then screw those together. Once we check to make sure that everything is good, we can take it apart and then add wood glue to finalize that. Now add a knob onto the exposed screws and then tighten that in place. Once that's tightened, the track should not move. Now you can always check for measurement and check between the blade, the front and the back, to make sure that the fence is straight. If the fence is straight, you can now add wood glue and proceed to locking it into place. Now I've never used these PVC trim before, but they are nice and I'll probably be using a lot of this in some of my future jigs. Now clamp the fence down and install the screws along the top. The side of the trim are definitely not as smooth as the face of the trim, so some sanding will be needed to smooth that up. And I used 120 grit first, then I came back with some 220 and finished that up. I added wax to the table saw and the fence to reduce any friction. Now to add or remove the table saw fence, you have to slide it in and slide it back out. The blade sits parallel to the fence, and that's a good sign. If the fence is not locked into position, it will be some play on the opposite side, but once it is locked in place, it's not moving. So at this point, the build is done and I'm going to run some test cuts. Thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully this video was of help to you in your quest of making your table saw, or maybe it gave you some ideas for some other builds you may want to tackle yourself. If you find this helpful, be sure to hit that thumbs up. Let me know what your thoughts are down in the comments. And again, guys, I'm Glenn with DIY Creators, and I will catch you guys on the next one.